Well, this is a real personal story for you. And I mean, this is your grandmother. And
Yeah.
actually, Fred Hechinger plays you. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
that is correct. Yeah.
Did you ever have to coach him and say, no, this is the way I did it?
He's smart and he got it pretty quick. I didn't have to tell him too much about how I would have done it versus how he did it. But I think we got really lucky with both June and Fred because they both felt so perfect to me for those parts. June reminds me so much of my grandma. She has so many of those qualities, that sort of toughness, but also that vulnerability and that kind of humor that just kind of, is so easy on her, and also the gravitas, and Fred too. He's just sort of, I can't describe him without sounding like I'm trying to give myself a compliment. But no, he was very he was just like so wonderfully thoughtful and funny and natural, and they also got along well. So we got lucky in that regard too, because that's hard to totally fabricate. They're both great actors, but there's an added juice, I think, when you can kind of feel the affection there, and they just had that for each other, which was really nice.
And we also have to mention Richard Roundtree. Of course, you're talking about the sense of urgency, and Richard Roundtree being part of this, and then leaving us adds a poignancy to this movie, because death and losing friends and being left alone is an important part of the message of this movie. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Richard was, yeah, really, really lovely to work with, and really a wonderful, funny, charming, cool, sweet guy. And I feel really happy that we got the chance to work with him, And at the time we had I don't think he even knew at the time that he was ill, and he may not have even been at that moment. He passed away about a year after we shot. And I think it happened pretty quickly.
I can't imagine what it was like when you first put both of them on scooters. What,
Yeah,
what was that like?
nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking, but it got less nerve-wracking as we went on.
Why are we stopping at Mona's?
To get a gun.
Do you even know how to use it?
How hard can it be? Idiots use them all the time.
God.
That scooter originally, when we got it, we didn't realize that thing goes like 30 miles an hour. It can tip if you turn it too quickly. We just learned a lot of things about it where we were like, okay, we need to be really careful with this. And we almost thought about trying to replace it. But then we figured out a way to put a limiter on it so it can only go about 10 when they were driving it. And June had a real knack for it. And with the help of our stunt team, ended up doing a lot of the driving. So it was, day by day, I would say it got more and more normal to see them kind of riding around on there. But I never totally got used to it. June, I know, loved, she was always like, I'm driving around with Shaft on the back of this scooter. This is, never dreamed I would be driving him around LA. So I think she got a kick out of that for sure.
So, Josh, buddy movies, road trip movies, action movies, at a pace for a 93-year-old.
I think basically this movie was kind of where my love for my grandma, obviously, but also sort of my love for comedy, dramedy, about family dynamics, married kind of my love for action. And I think what excited me so much was kind of exactly what you're saying, is finding a way to take those action tropes and those ways of shooting things and ways of pacing things and ways of cross-cutting things, and shrink that down to kind of an everydayness, and to treat it with sincerity, not to make it feel like we're parodying it, but to use it on a shrunken scale to kind of dramatize her grit and her tenacity, while also kind of having fun with it as, the adventure that it is. But that alchemy and that idea of taking those and shrinking them was what really got me excited about making the movie, and felt like, a backdoor way to kind of write an ode to my grandma's spirit, for lack of a better word.
And did your grandma see this movie?
She has, which is really nice. She's 103, and she lives with my parents now, but she's had a chance to see it, which was very special. And I was very grateful that she was able to sort of take it in. And I think it also is a sort of surreal for her. Like, that's her name, that's her condo. These are real facets of her life being kind of taken and then turned into something, true, and also beyond that. So it's very surreal, but I think she really enjoyed it.
Well, and you shot it in her condo, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that condo is her real condo where she lived with my grandpa for 30 years. So it was
Wow.
surreal for me to be filming in there too, with like people playing kind of versions of my family and me and her, and in a place I'd been my whole life. It was sort of a funny mixing of a blending of fiction and fact. That was strange, but it felt right.
Mail $10,000 to this address.
$10,000?
How did you think this was real?
Mom, you thought it was real too.
Oh my God. She was very convincing.
Well, she was scared, your mother. We were all scared.
I wasn't quite as scared, just for the record.
Speaking of blending fiction and fact, in fact, the scammers never did pull it off on the real Thelma.
Correct.
She didn't go for it, right?
Well, she went for it, kind of in the way she does in the movie, but they were able to reach me luckily before any money exchanged hands. So basically, she did kind of get, which was sort of the impetus for writing it, is she did kind of get fooled for a little bit in a similar fashion to the character, and my family got panicked. That all kind of happened, and then luckily they just got in touch with me before money exchanged hands. But then obviously I started imagining, you know, what might have happened if she had sent it, and the movie was sort of born of that. But you know, I think she'd gotten those calls in the past, and she kind of wasn't fooled. And then this one, for some reason, wrong moment, wrong day. You know, she had gotten a little older, and something about it just kind of got under her skin for whatever reason. So it, you know, again, true to a point, and then kind of imagined from there.
Well, and she cared for you so very much. I mean, that was the linchpin.
That was the secret weapon, I think, is that she, yeah, exactly. Which put an extra sense of like, oh, you know, added more feelings to the mix for me, being like used as the what's the word? Like the bait. It was, unfortunate, but it didn't go too badly.
So we have helicopter parents, you know, Parker and Clark. We have and helicopter children.
That's right.
Parker, Clark, and Danny I've never seen a characterization of a grandchild so loving and so caring and so wanting to protect a grandparent. Is that your relation? Is that your relationship with Thelma?
Hello?
No, sorry. I'm just looking for my grandma.
Definitely. I think, you know, the parent characters are definitely pushed a little more antagonistic in the movie for the sake of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But the anxiety, you know, I think that we all feel for her, and that I've always felt for her, is real, and is just, she's always been kind of, I've just felt kind of a kindredness with her my whole life. We've just been close ever since I was a kid, and she's always been just kind of a fixture of my life, and a pal, for lack of a better word too, and very present. And so I think, you know, that feeling and that dynamic is all very real. And then obviously some things are, you know, twisted or turned up a little bit for the sake of the movie and the needs of it. You know, for example, I have a sister who's also very close with her, but you know, the movie needs what the movie needs. So my sister was very like, I understand why I'm not in it. And I was like, I know. And she's also a writer. She's written something, you know, it's like, this is all to say, yes, like that dynamic is very, very, very true to life, and very true to my own, you know, fears and thoughts about her well-being, mixed with, you know, knowing she also values her autonomy and has valued it very dearly.
What was the most difficult scene to shoot?
You know, I think the one that comes to mind is the scene where she's on the ground after she's fallen. That whole sequence. It's obviously kind of an emotional low in the movie, which has its own kind of, you know, feelings associated with it. But I think also even logistically, it just was one of those moments where we were out in the middle of the night in this dirt patch, and, you know, June is like lying on her back and obviously on a pad, and all these things are great care is being taken to make sure she's comfortable. But, you know, you're on location. And so there is this slight feeling where you're like, oh God, this feels a little bit bad. This feels a little bit like, oh, let's get out of this. Let's get this and move. And she was fine and everybody was fine. But it just, I think between some of the logistical complications and just the feeling of the moment and the feeling of that moment in the shoot, I think we all were like, we were really relieved to have kind of gotten through that little chapter of it. And to, you know, once he did the pickup sequence is one of my favorites. And that was nice. But the stuff leading up definitely had its kind of a weightiness.
Josh, it's also hilarious and wonderful to have a geriatric villain with an oxygen tank. You don't see that. You don't see your master criminal, your mastermind villain on an oxygen tank every day.
We have to level the playing field a little bit here. Yeah.
Or someone who knows to just take hold of the hose.
Yeah, we need some vulnerabilities there to seize on. And also just to be another part of the spectrum of, how all these people are kind of clinging on to their autonomy. I think that's a big part of it. Like the varying degrees of who's been willing to accept some help, who has the support system to sort of keep it together, and who's maybe kind of gotten a little lost in that. And I thought it was, we really loved the idea of that character. They didn't have to be a peer exactly, but we liked the idea of that character being older as another kind of side of the coin.
Any particular scene that cracked you up?
I think I'm trying to think. It's funny, when I was on the set, it's like in writing stuff, things definitely made me laugh. And then on the set, I was very just like, all right, let's make our days. Let's get our stuff. I sometimes I would have to snap out and remember to enjoy myself. But no, a lot of it was really fun to do. And anything with, June was just a blast to work with. The scene where she's doing where she's calling her friends to try to find a ride, watching her do those takes and just hit the timing of that so sharply was really making me laugh during production.
John, as we wrap up, John, it occurs to me you could start a whole new genre of movies now. You've got generations of geriatric actors who are going to be clamoring at your door now for a script from you to do the next geri-tainment movie.
Exactly. I think let's get it going.